Well receives an invitation to visit the church headed by Hohenheim for baptism. He takes it as a great offer without considering that there may be any ulterior motive. He even goes there with a gift. As he arrives, he's taken to a dining room by Hohenheim, who asks him to sit and wait for tea. He brings out a box of coins that he has prepared as a thank you gift and gives it to Hohenheim, who is most grateful for his kind heart. He sits at the table, and Hohenheim's granddaughter, Elise, knocks on the door to bring him some tea. Hohenheim asks Elise to introduce herself, and as well sees Elise too. He likes her aura. He figures she can use magic and asks Hohenheim if indeed Elise can use magic. Hohenheim tells him that Elise can use healing magic, and because of that, she has been called Saint Hohenheim right from when she was a kid and she heals at home. He jokingly says he's sure several men will be queuing up to marry Elise, as she will be a plus to any man she marries. Hohenheim tells him that they have several suitors, but he is looking for a perfect fit for her. Well replies that if the choice hasn't been made, he would like to be considered too. Although Well is saying these words as a joke, he doesn't know it has been planned by Hohenheim even before he arrived. Hohenheim takes his jokes personally immediately and tells him he will marry Elise when he comes of age, as Elise is still 12. When he is of age, they will marry. Well is shocked that he went for baptism, and he came back engaged. He speaks to his friend and brother and says it's weird and not meant to be. He insists that they do not know each other, and they would not know if they're a good fit for each other yet. This makes his brother tell him that nobles' marriages are always like that, and they also didn't meet their wives until they married. He accepts the lifestyle. He is called into his brother's wife starts dressing him like a clown. When he asks her why they're painting him in such a way, his friend Erwin tells him it's because he wants to go to the city, and there's no way he will go without a disguise. People won't start crowding him and asking him to pick them as retainers. He accepts it and goes to the market. He shops happily and even buys something for Elise. However, as he is about to leave, he sees the young boy who has been begging him to employ him as a retainer. Contrary to what they had thought about the disguise, the boy recognizes him immediately. They escape from the side and disappear. As they return home, his brother advises him that if he doesn't want people to keep asking him to employ them, then he must hire a retainer. Erwin asks him to employ him, and he immediately employs his friend. He disappears to Hohenheim's house, but he hides from Hohenheim. When Elise sees him, he drags her away and takes her to a rooftop to talk to her. He asks her what she thinks about the arrangement, and she says she's fine with it, as he is a desirable man which every other lady would want to marry. Her reply gets Well satisfied. At home, Lena and Louis arrive, and they hear from Erwin that he has been employed as a retainer. They get angry and wish for such opportunities for themselves, but Erwin says that even if they are employed, they will be his juniors. As a result, Louise thinks of another means and decides they will be Well's concubines. She devises a seduction means and she starts dancing in front of Well that night. She cuts one of her dresses into seduction wear, and Lena asks her where she sees the passion for doing things like that. She tells Lena it's because she knows if she becomes Well's concubine, she will have enough money to build a school and teach her skills. This way, her family will believe her. Lena decides to put her energy too, and Louise offers her one of the cutaway seduction clothes, but she refuses because it's too open. That night Well receives an invite for dinner with Elise. They eat together royally until the servant tells Well that since it's their first date, he should give Elise a gift. They go to an engagement ring shop, where he picks a plain ring. This servant says the ring is too plain, and for a saint like Hohenheim, she deserves something special. But Well says that's what he wants. The seller tells him the ring contains a magic metal and it's expensive, but he buys it regardless. On their way home, Elise asks him if he bought the ring because of the magic so she will be useful for him after marriage. But he tells her he didn't know it could contain magic. He only bought it because he felt it would look good on her. At home, Hohenheim asks his servant what he thinks about Well, and the man tells him that other men treat Elise like a saint, but Will treats her like a normal woman. In the car, Well tells Elise that since the ring could contain magic, they should check it out. He puts magic into the ring, and it glows. Around that morning, while Lena, Louise, and Erwin eat, Erwin asks them about their crazy operation, concubine seduction. They tell him that they have put the operation on hold because they figure the summer break will soon be over, and they will rightly return to school. So when they are back to school, they can continue the operation. Erwin encourages them that when they are back to school, Elise won't be with them, so they can successfully do their operations. As they talk, Elise enters. She apologizes for visiting them unaware and says she wants to see Well. But they inform her that Well is at the castle. She, however, tells them that she knows he isn't around. She wants to meet them and ask them about Well. They ask her to sit, and they talk. At the castle, the king tells Well and Brantag that they will be going to Paul Kenya Prairie, a city where there are dragons, to kill a dragon and destroy the monster. Well is not prepared for such a mission, but he knows he can't reject it because he is now a royal slave. They show him the plan and the map for the city. As he wonders if there will be only fighting for that mission, another person enters as their partner. The palace magician, Armstrong. Armstrong greets Brantag and he touches Well, saying he isn't any bad, and he thinks that they will be good partners. They leave for their mission, and Well confides in Brantag that Armstrong is big. While they fight the dragon, his teammates are informed at home that the dragon is the least of the area's worries. In fact, it's the dragon that is stopping the monsters from attacking the city. So fighting the dragons means you must bring the war to the monsters. So Well needs a team. Several young men who want the achievement arrive for selection, and since Well isn't around, his retainer Erwin picks the troop. Elise arrives. She says she has been commanded as a saint to join the team and help heal the wounded. They tell her that Well is on the battlefront line. As they prepare to kill the dragon, the following day, Will's friend asks Elise if she wants to stay with them for breakfast. They prepare miso balls for her, which they help her break into a soup, as that is Well's favorite food. On the battle group, Armstrong wears his magical armor and goes to hold the dragon down. Armstrong is very strong, and Well wonders if he can't defeat the dragon alone. But Brantag tells him his armor consumes much power and his power will soon get exhausted. After Armstrong presses the dragon, Well defeats the dragon. He takes the body parts and tells the others that there isn't a reward for the battle, so he will sell the body parts. They tell him the battle has just begun, and they are going to face the same thing that killed his master, the monsters. He joins the troop that Erwin has gathered, and they all go for the fight. Any wounded person is taken to the medical tent, where Elise and other saints treat them with joy. Elise is radiant throughout the war, and she encourages herself that they will be fine. One of the soldiers also tells her of Well's great work at the front and says he is a source of encouragement to all the soldiers. A messenger brings news that they have won the battle, and whoever the messenger tells them Well is wounded. Elise runs toward the front, and when she sees he isn't wounded, she faints. He carries her under the tree, and as she recovers, he tells her he heard about her great works in the tent and how she shared hopes for all the soldiers. She also tells him that he isn't a hero, but he is her hero. As they talk, Armstrong shouts from afar and calls Elise his niece. Well is shocked to hear that Elise is Armstrong's niece. Due to the Duke's instruction, Well and his friends will remain in the capital. As a result, his friends start packing into their castle. Louise and Lena wonder if Elise will start living with them. And they say it will be awkward if they try their Operation Concubine Seduction when the real wife is around. At about the same time, Elise arrives with a bowl of soup. She tells Well that she assumed he's engaged to Lena and Louise before her, but he tells her no, as they are just friends. However, he asks her if she will be okay with him having a concubine, and she replies that she's fine with it. Immediately after that conversation, Lena and Louise scream that they will be his concubine. He asks Elise if she agrees, and she accepts them. Louise jumps in happiness. Well's brother, Helmut, marries the Night Dumb family. During the wedding ceremony, Well speaks to his siblings about their marriages too, but they tell him the only reason anyone wants to marry them at the moment is to become Well's relative. He denies the accusations and says it's a lie, but they inform him of the truth. They also tell him that as a noble, he has to put in for the martial arts tournament. They tell him that every noble has the responsibility of putting in for it once in their life, and he has to put more time into training as he is at a disadvantage because he can't use magic. They inform him that the martial arts tournament is a test for a man's physical skills, and he can't use magic. He says he will enhance his physical powers with magic, but they tell him it's impossible. They inform him that the tournament has 4 categories: swordsmanship, spearmanship, archery, and man-to-man. None of the categories allow for the use of magic. On the other hand, his friends are doing their usual training, and Erwin is lagging behind. He keeps running slowly, and he says he can't keep up with them, as they are both using their magical powers to enhance their physical ability. As they talk, they see Well flying above them to visit the cardinal. Erwin says to himself that it must be miserable for him not to know how to use powers at all. As they return home, they meet Brantag at home. He tells them that they have to engage in the martial arts tournament too, and says that they do not need to win. All they need to do is to scale through the preliminary phase, so they won't embarrass their masters. He tells the girls they can't enhance their physical abilities either. The girls encourage themselves immediately and leave the house to start training. But Erwin keeps lying down. Brantag asks Erwin if he won't be training for the tournament. But Erwin replies he isn't as skilled as the others, and he can't stress himself. Brantag scares him. He tells him that if he keeps up in being lazy, then he will be a hindrance to the team. And when they become adventurers, they will remove him from their team. In defense, he says their team is a family, and they can't do that to him. But Brantag informs him that they will do so. During dinner, Erwin's heart is occupied by Brantag's words. He's distracted during the meal and is brought alive by Well's words. Well informs them that after meeting with the cardinal, he has a request for their team. Erwin is scared immediately as he imagines that they want to remove him from the team. But what Well has in mind is different. He tells them he wants Elise to join their team. The girls accept Elise wholeheartedly, while Erwin becomes distracted. Well tells them their competition will be simpler, as the winner of the last 2 tournaments, Warren, who is commander of the Royal Knights, is withdrawing his application. This makes Erwin encouraged to practice. The team starts their practices, and Erwin puts most of his attention on it. However, during one dinner, Well tells them Warren has changed his mind and is registering again. This makes Erwin discouraged. He refuses to do his night training, and when the girls go to speak to him, he asks them if they have ever seen Warren's sword in action. The following day, he attempts to speak with Well about his fear, but Well is asleep in the sitting room. As Well wakes, he calls Elise's name. Well informs Erwin that Elise assumed she might weigh the team down due to her lack of physical abilities. So she has been training early in the morning. Erwin figures everyone has their insecurities and decides to keep training. On the day of the tournament, Elise brings lunch for the team before they leave for their game. Well's first game is against Warren, who defeats him immediately. Louise does her hand-to-hand combat, and she loses in the semi-final stage. Well, Lena's second-to-last opponent turns out to be the boy that wields his spear every day, asking to be Well's retainer. This boy, the spinning spear guy Roderick, defeats her. Upon returning to their dressing room, they meet Well sleeping. Elise informs them that Well spent the night cooking their lunch, so he will encourage them. Erwin's last opponent is Warren. As he leaves for a break, he is discouraged already. He goes to his friends, and Lena tells him she heard what Brantag has told him. She asks him to open his lunchbox. They tell him that Well prepared the lunch, and Well will never leave them. He gets encouraged and goes for his fight. Although the results are not shown, it's assumed he lost, as Warren is now his mentor, teaching him how to use the sword better. Lena tells Well they have the same mentor, and she takes him to a part of the mountain where he finds out their mentor is Armstrong. 3 years later, Kurt, while working on the farm with his father in the village, hears from his wife that there's a person looking for him from the city. He knows it's rare for him to get such a visitor. As he gets there, the visitor gives him a letter and says it's about Well. He assumes it's the letter of people from the city who want to become Well's family members and mindlessly gives a letter to his wife, Amelia, to read it. As she reads it, she screams. She calls the attention of others and tells them the letter says Well is dead at ancient ruins 5 days ago. Well and his party, who have just turned 18, decide to enroll in the Adventurers Guild with the name Dragon Busters. As they all sit in the house to celebrate their new feat and look at the adventurer guide, Well is happy that he will stop being a slave to the king and can now take missions upon his wish. A penny for his thoughts as Brantag enters about the same time and tells him their team has a mission. It's a mission from the king to visit the ruins of an ancient city and find out what's there. He realizes he's just an official slave. They take the mission since it's their first mission, and Brantag tells them the king has instructed him to follow them as their advisor. They get to the ruins, and they wonder what's happening. Brantag tells them that after their battle 3 years ago, some people found the ruins, and some adventurers took the task of exploring the ruins, but they didn't come back later. The guild and another set of veteran adventurers also didn't return later. Another set of adventurers were sent. This makes them assume there is probably a dragon in the ruins. And since the team registered themselves as Dragon Busters, then they are the perfect fit. However, they figure the place is empty. They find a door. Brantag uses his magical skills to open it, and they see an empty room. They find a place in the room guarded with jewels, and they go there. As they enter, they start disappearing one by one. Elise faints. In this adventure, she wakes up, and they meet themselves at a part of the ruins that they do not know of. Brantag figures the ruins are a trap, and the only way they can survive is to find their way to the surface. Louise asks them to use Well's teleportation skills, but Well informs them he can only teleport if he knows where he is and where he's going, so they can't teleport. They have to use the stairs. As they climb, they encounter some golems. Lena, Louise, and Erwin ask Well to retain his magic as they fight. After defeating the first golems, they see the bones of all the adventurers. They defeat the golems until they see a dragon golem. Meanwhile, a baron named Ruckner starts spreading rumors that Well is dead, and he is the one who sent the letter to Kurt. So Kurt will nominate one of his sons for Well's position. As they fight the dragon golem, Brantag and Well add their powers together, but it's not enough. Elise kisses Well and calls out a special light which he uses to destroy the golem. They both collapse. As they awake, they walk towards Brantag, who tells them it's an ancient mage named Count Akilberg who was one of the first who built the ruins because he doesn't want the things he kept there to get into unqualified hands. He takes them to the valuable things in the room, and they see several aircraft. Erwin opens the aircraft